The Fearless Fund, an Atlanta-based and Black woman-funded venture capital firm, won the first battle in a lawsuit they are facing, alleging a grant program for Black women and small business owners, Black small business owners, is racially discriminatory. They won their first battle in that lawsuit in the federal district court. However, the defendant, Edward Bloom, and the nonprofit organization that he has led that has been challenging affirmative action programs in universities around this country, appealed the decision of the federal district court. He filed an appeal, or his group filed an appeal to the 11th Circuit Court of Appeal, and the Circuit Court of Appeal had a different interpretation. There was a different outcome at the appellate level than at the federal court level. Arian Simone, co-founder and CEO of the Fearless Foundation, is joining me, as well as Ying McGuire, president and CEO of the National Minority Supplier Development Council. And later in this hour, Dr. Ty Douglas, who is a professor at the University of Berkeley and an expert on diversity, equity, and inclusion, is going to join this conversation because there are a lot of constitutional arguments and issues raised by this lawsuit. So I want to make sure we cover what's happening or what's likely to happen with this lawsuit if it makes its way to the Supreme Court. But thank you so much, Arian, and thank you so much, Ying, for joining. Arian, can you just kind of give us a synopsis of where the lawsuit is now and where that small business grant program is?
Yes, and due to the fact that we are in an active lawsuit, I will be speaking based upon what you can see in the public. What you can see in the public is that we were definitely sued on August 2nd. We're being sued for alleged discrimination. And during that time, there was a complaint filed as well as a preliminary injunction. Fast forward, we went to court, as you stated, and in the district court, we won for the preliminary injunction. After that, it was appealed. And we are currently going through the appellate process in the 11th Circuit regarding the appeal. So that's where we are at. The plaintiffs, they sent in their brief. We have time, we have to respond back to that, and then they have an opportunity to respond to our response.
So since the 11th Circuit basically overruled the federal district court, is the grant program itself just on hold as the matter works its way through the court system?
That is correct. As it states right now, the grant program is on pause.
Talk a little about, what the purpose of the grant program is. Like, what was the intention of you, your co-founder, the organization, in creating this grant program?
Well, I'll even speak a step before that. The foundation is designed to provide grants as well as education to women of color. We have been very instrumental in doing that. We have awarded over 350 women of color businesses grants. We have deployed millions of dollars in grant funding. We have educated over 1,000 women of color founders every single year in the area of venture education. All of our grant programs, because we have multiple ones, they are all designed to add capital and the access of capital to women of color founders. As we know, women of color are the most founded entrepreneur demographic. They are unfortunately just the least funded. And with that being said, these grants are able to help them with job creation. They're able to help them with marketing. They are able to help them with cash flow management. It is essential that they receive the capital that they actually deserve in order to help scale and grow their businesses. So just like this one grant program, all of our grant programs provide those opportunities.
Ying, so given what we just heard about the work of the Fearless Fund and their efforts to provide support to minority female business owners, what do you make of Edward Bloom and the American Alliance for Equal Rights, the timing of their lawsuit and the targeting of the Fearless Fund? Because clearly they're not the only organization providing these kinds of grants to Black-owned women, Latin-owned women, Indigenous women. There are lots of grant programs out there. Why this organization and why this time?
Yeah, so this has been a well-funded and purposeful and coordinated legal and political strategy really aimed at blocking full participation for systemically excluded community of color in economic life. So this is one of many. And this group have been pursuing a 3-pronged political and legal strategy designed to really dismantle the legal basis for programs and policies designed to promote inclusion and level the playing field for minority businesses, which the NMSDC network have tirelessly fought for over the past 50 years, including government contracting preferences, corporate supply diversity initiatives, workforce diversity, and related efforts. And also, it is aimed to shift the risk calculus for corporate leaders regarding to DEI and supply diversity programs and other activities, and mobilize the voters for the 2024 elections by providing the narrative and talking points for candidates and the parties, and shaping the news cycle leading up to November 2024. And so this is not the first one. It's not going to be the last one. And with these organizations including Fearless Fund, are doing everything they can to push back against this baseless lawsuit. NMSDC and our partners realize that they cannot do it alone. That's why we're here to support Arian and the Fearless Fund and the Fearless Foundation.
So Ying, you say this isn't the first one, meaning the first lawsuit. How pervasive are these kinds of lawsuits? Or, how often are you seeing these kinds of lawsuits targeting Black female-owned business or just Black-owned businesses that are trying to provide some kind of financial support for other Black and minority business owners?
Yeah, I think the recent affirmative action decision definitely emboldened the movement and increased the number of these attacks. And other legal challenges, give you a few examples, a challenge to the constitutionality of the Minority Business Development Agency in the Department of Commerce was advancing through the court system after a district court judge in Texas issued an injunction against 3 MBDA centers, and some of them were run by our NMSDC affiliates. And one of the cases that got most attention from our community is a case against USDA and SBA at the Tennessee District Court judge ruled that government could not presume that all business owners in the category deemed eligible for participate in the 8A business development and contracting program disadvantage. And there were many NMSDC corporate members got challenged by some of the lawsuit, like a Starbucks corporation. There was a lawsuit claiming that companies' targets and practices for diverse hiring and contracting spend reflected anti-white discrimination. And the Kellogg Company and then Target Company, and all of them, our corporate members, have been committed to promote a diverse and inclusive economy for the really well-being of our country. So these attacks are not the first we witnessed over the last 50 years, and certainly will not be the last.
So Arian, if you are not, the Fearless Fund is not able to, have these kind of grant programs like this one, what would that mean for your business and the mission of your organization? If the court somehow magically rules, given, the conservative Supreme Court, this case makes its way to the Supreme Court. We know there's a 6-3 conservative majority. We saw what happened to college admissions, affirmative action. So I don't think it'd be far-fetched to see this particular court as currently constituted make, similar what many of us believe to be flawed arguments to try to support the conservative ideology of folks like Edward Bloom and his nonprofit. So just looking down the road, how would that impact your organization?
Well, 2 things. You're correct. What is at stake is if we lose, everybody loses. And if we win, everybody wins. And you were able to cite, of course, the affirmative action case when there were only 2 schools that were in the case, but yet everybody lost. So we have to be mindful of that so we all know what is at stake and how serious this lawsuit is. It also has a chilling effect, meaning that just by suing somebody, you're instilling fear. Mm-hmm. People are withdrawing from their programs, whether they're being sued or not, because they're in fear of being sued. But in the event, which I do, of course, pray everything does go our way and we are very well supported, I would say that we would have to creatively figure out how to still continue this work. This work is important. These disparities are real. And we have to figure out how to still continue to do this work.
And you mentioned that chilling effect, and you're absolutely right. These kinds of lawsuits can make it very difficult for organizations like yours to seek funding. You know, sometimes funders get spooked. I cited that Morrison and Foerster law firm policy, that diversity fellowship. I know students who have benefited from that diversity fellowship, and I was saddened to see that Morrison and Foerster were going to change their policies. Have you had that happen where any of your funders or any of your partners have been spooked by this lawsuit and quite frankly said, you know, I don't, we're going to just sit back and wait before we make any additional financial investments?
Well, we will see. We're in the middle of fundraising all the time with the business that we do. We are aware that a lot of our investors and our donors have received threatening letters. We run two different businesses. The fund is an investment vehicle. The foundation is a philanthropic vehicle. And we know on both sides of those businesses that they have received letters to stop their DEI funding. And hopefully they plan to stand by their commitments. But only time will tell if they're willing to stand by their commitments.
And Ying, we did see big companies that came out very aggressively after George Floyd's murder, after the civil unrest. You know, a lot of them came out and pledged billions of dollars to minority-owned businesses. There's a recent article in the New York Times about how that money began to dry up after 2020 or during 2021, and that some of those businesses that had exponential revenue growth in 20 and 21 now are on the verge of bankruptcy or closure. So what are you seeing with regards to some of these big companies like a Target or McDonald's or others who were very vocal about supporting minority businesses? Are you seeing any of them take a step backwards because of, you know, the ending of COVID, the kind of 24/7 news cycle that has, you know, made the George Floyd murder and the civil unrest, you know, not a front page story, and then a lawsuit like this, as well as the one involving college admissions?
So as I shared earlier, all of these attacks definitely change the risk calculus of a corporate America on their investment to DEI. But I think the corporate America, large corporations, I want to see them going two different directions. Those corporations that was doing this for compliance reasons in the past, you're definitely going to see they're going to pack their bag and start to do less or eliminate their DEI programs. But for those corporations who believe that diversity and promoting minority-owned businesses, it's good for their shareholders' value, it's good for their top line, bottom line, it's good for the future of our economy, they will not step back. I have, you know, right now I have to be very optimistic. You know, we work with our corporate members every day, and I have confidence in our corporate leaders who are resolute in their determination to shine a spotlight of hope in this devastated situation. I believe our corporate leaders recognize that systemic racial economic inequality pose a threat to our nation's progress. They understand that the financial cloud is a powerful equalizer. They believe the business ownership is the key to economic empowerment, and they see an untapped supplier resources in people of color. In fact, an untapped consumer base in people of color. So I believe this corporate leader will rise to the occasion again, just like they did in 1960s, in 1970s, after the civil rights movement, and they have to take a leadership and get us through this.
Arian, have you seen that? Have you seen any of these corporations that Ying is, making reference to without calling names? But have you seen some of these big corporate CEOs, stand up and push back in terms of the lawsuit against your organization? But as you said, the notion that if this lawsuit succeeds, it will have greater impact, much greater impact on other diversity programs at businesses big and small. Are you getting much support from those corporate leaders? Public support, not calling you up or sending you a DM or a private text, but folks who have a platform and power, who can write op-ed pieces, who can go on shows and, can stand with you in a public way. Is that happening?
What I can say, a few people I have seen, not necessarily that there are investors, but as Ying was stating, people who truly believe in DEI, they will keep their stance. So I have seen a few corporations saying that they're going to continue in their efforts. Have I seen a widespread movement the way we did in the racial reckoning of 2020? I mean, that answer is obvious, and we know that that answer is no. So I haven't seen that yet. We are charging all of our corporate investors, even as of recent, to say something. So we will see very soon who's willing to say something publicly and who is not. So it may just take a little time, but I'm definitely going to be observant to see who is truly in this with us, or were they just in this because it looked good at the moment.
Yeah, we heard a lot about performative. That was a word, became very popular. Everyone was using as, companies posted Black squares on their Instagram as they issued very fanciful press releases, very powerful in some cases, and made pledges. Real quickly, Ying, a lot of that money that was pledged, when I talked to a lot of small business owners, they said that money, a lot of it from corporate America, never made its way into the pockets of Black business owners or into their businesses. Is there anything that your organization is doing around that?
We are seeing some of the dollar went directly to minority business development. For example, our Center for Excellence program that we develop smaller MBEs and move them into a mid-sized businesses, and that's entirely funded by our corporate dollar and the corporate foundation dollars. I think, like I said earlier, that companies with the compliance mindset, we don't know where the dollar went, but for the companies who see this as economic growth opportunity, we're definitely seeing that pledge is becoming a reality through organizations like NMSDC.
And Arian, we're almost out of time. So real quickly, tell us what the We Are All Fearless campaign is.
Oh my gosh, that may be a question actually for Ying. The NMSDC has been very instrumental, and thank you, Ying, in standing with us in this fight. And it was their idea to come up with the We Are All Fearless campaign because they wanted the world to see we are all in this together. It's not just the face of the Fearless Fund. If we win, we all win. And if we lose, we all lose. So we have joined together forces for a campaign for everybody to understand, no, we are all fearless.
Well, we are out of time. Thank you so much, Ying McGuire, for the work that you do. And thank you, Arian Simone. We will be watching this lawsuit very closely. But again, best of luck in your efforts to fight back against Edward Bloom and his conservative organization.